Yes, everyone, what's going on? My name is Stephen Howson. This is Stretford, Paddock, and you're like, Steve, thought he was having a podcast today. Yeah, I did as well. We've got one guest who's not shown, and the other guest is Ronaldo, so you know we're having technical problems. Actually, Ronaldo's in the other room. You might notice we're in a different looking shed today. Came back into the studio, socially distanced. Got more fucking gels on the wall than a 1990s barbershop. Feels weird. And we've had loads of technical gremlins since we've come back as well. Computers have just decided they don't want to work, all that sort of stuff. If you saw the podcast that we did yesterday or the day before, you'll realise what we're on about. We fixed that one. So now we found new problems for us to go after. Ronaldo's going to join us as soon as he's ready. But there's a couple of things that we're going to be talking about today. One of the things that we're going to be talking about today, and you're going to hit this like button first before we properly get into this. So give it a like, make sure you give it a share, and go and retweet what we've just put on Twitter. I think, and we'll ask Ronaldo when we get in here as well, I think United are going to go for a new formation. I'm positive of it, to be honest. Looking at what Solskjaer is trying to come up with, looking at what he's trying to buy, I think there's no way that United aren't going to be looking at a new formation. Yes, we've been linked with Saul Niguez. I am getting excited over that. Turn yours down a little bit, Ronaldo, because I can hear it well loud in here. I'll bring him in a sec. We are linked with Saul Niguez. I like that. We've been linked with Talisco. We've been linked with, a million different, including Jude Bellingham, a million different midfielders, everything like that. Let's get the boy on. What's happening, our kid?
Doing all right, how are you?
I'm all right, I guess. Can you lot hear him? Because I can't hear him.
Yeah? Can you not hear me?
All right, I can hear you now. Yeah, I couldn't hear when you first started talking. And there's a weird delay, which is going to be a bit of a nightmare to get used to, because I can hear you in there, and then I hear you in here. What's your thoughts on that? Solskjaer looking at tons of midfielders. Obviously, we've already got Bruno, we've already got Pogba, Matic, Mata, Pereira, Lingard. We're sure some of them are going to get sold. With who else we're being linked to, especially the Grealish, the Havertz, that sort of player, do you think we're looking at a new formation?
I kind of mentioned this, obviously, 2 days ago in the podcast Gone Wrong, about the fact that we kind of trying to overload the midfield areas, but it might kind of tailor us towards a more of a diamond kind of aspect to it. Maybe sacrifice a little bit of width. Maybe might rely on Wan-Bissaka obviously getting forward better at his forward play. Luke Shaw likes to dash down the left anyway. Or Brandon Williams. I know which one I prefer. I know which one you prefer. But thinking the midfield areas, if you're looking at a 6, obviously we're not all sold on Matic, because if you've got a 6, a 8, a 10, and whatever number it is, but obviously you can have Matic, Pogba, and Bruno Fernandes, and in the 10 area, who you're looking at, you may be looking at Greenwood, maybe. If you've not got the width, and then up front, you might have Martial and Rashford together. I feel like there's a lot of ways you could go if you go to a diamond. It's a little bit like, it allows a certain flexibility, like a certain variety that we maybe have been missing in the past. But if you've got a lot of midfield areas and a lot of good midfielders, then we might as well utilise them, is what I think. So I think the best way to utilise them is have like a diamond kind of approach, maybe. But I'm not quite sure, actually. Might have to think on it.
If we did go to a diamond, I could see that's a way to utilise what we've essentially got is 4 centre forwards, haven't we? With Rashford, Martial, Greenwood, and Ighalo. 4 centre forwards, very similar to what Ollie played in 1999. Obviously, the midfield shape and layout is going to be entirely different. What you've just said there in terms of Matic in the 6, I think you could also, depending on who you're playing, put Fred there, and also probably utilise McTominay there if need be. You could also maybe look at Jimmy Garner as a bit of extra to go in there. Your 8s, obviously, you've still got McTominay and Fred can both fill in there. Pogba and Bruno likely to be the first choice in those 2 positions. Does that mean the number 10 spot, is that why he's looking for that number 10? Is that why we're looking for a Havertz or a Grealish or someone of that sort of ilk? Do you think that's what he's trying to do? Or do you think he's probably just looking to add a bit of flexibility to the squad to be able to, like I've been doing a video we've started the research on for this week, which is how United are going to play next week. And I was like, right, okay, so we're probably going to need a 3-5-2. He does like playing a 3-5-2 in the big games. You're probably going to have a 4-2-3-1 as well, so let's write that. I think he's probably moving towards a 4-3-3. That'll probably accommodate Pogba and Bruno best. And then you're like, yeah, I think you probably need a diamond in there as well. So before you know it, we've got 4 formations that we could see United play.
That's what I'm saying. It kind of looks like it will just make us a lot more flexible. I feel like if you're limited in the midfield area, then you can't be as varied or flexible, or you can't basically vary your approach depending on your opponent. So if you've got a lot of good midfielders, you can mix it up a little bit more. But I can't believe that I said, what did I say as a 6 earlier? I said Matic instead of Fred. Can't believe I forgot Fredinho, but gotta forgive me. But if you get the likes of Havertz and Grealish, which is probably what we're likely to get, then that does make the diamond make a little bit more sense in terms of you've actually got a 10 and a proper pivot in the forward areas. But if we are looking to get our main transfer target, which is Jadon Sancho, you got to ask, where does he fall into the mix if you're kind of sacrificing your wingers? So what do you think about that? Because I'm not quite sure how that's going to work, actually, if you think about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. How you come in with Sancho is going to be massive. I think he obviously isn't going to feature if you do a 4-4-2 diamond, and he wouldn't feature in a 3-5-2 either. He would be someone for the 4-2-3-1 or the 4-3-3 formation, but maybe that's the case. Maybe that we're looking at that for the simple fact of when we get enough people, when we get enough personnel, when we get ready to do what we need to do, when we get the squad that Solskjaer wants, not everyone's going to play week in, week out. And he was the perfect super sub, Ollie, wasn't he? He was the guy that would sit on the bench, that would know his place as part of a squad, and he would know how to come in and be utilised in the right time at the right place. I think if you spent 100 million on Sancho, you do expect he's going to feature more likely than he's not going to feature. But you also have to be aware that this United side is being rebuilt. It isn't at the peak of its powers. It isn't the finished article. And while those things are the case, I think you have to be thinking about tailoring your response to the opposition. And I think one thing Solskjaer's done very well is he's put the right team out at the right time, especially in the big games, whether that's Paris, Liverpool, City, Chelsea. He seems to have got it right more often than not in those games for me. What do you think?
Yeah, if you've got it where he has set out a certain formation in a certain game where maybe a marquee player or a key player might have to miss out to kind of factor it in, then we've got to see if Solskjaer is going to be willing to be ruthless enough to do that, because there's always a tendency when it comes to coaching or managing to play all your best players and just mix them all in. But that doesn't always work. So it's going to be interesting to see if you've got an embarrassment of riches, where's everyone going to fit in perfectly that fits everyone else in the team. So, because if you do buy Jadon Sancho, you've got to play him. So that basically, if you can't spend 100 million and then not play him in the big games, which is the issue. So maybe a diamond might not be the approach in them games, but then in other games, it could be. But then again, you got to look at Jadon, Marcus, Lingard, Greenwood. Maybe they could have the flexibility if they want to go a little bit attacking, where they could drop into that 10 role. They're good enough players. Maybe they're good enough to do it. So I'm not quite sure. It's actually kind of blagging my head a little bit how it's all going to work. If you do get everything that we do intend to buy, it's kind of, where's everyone going to go? Someone's going to have to miss out, and it's going to probably cause a little bit of drama.
You know that team in 1999? You may remember it. It was all right. It was pretty good. The quintessential 1999 Manchester United side, which was Neville and Irwin, Stam and Johnson, Schmeichel and Net, obviously, Keenan Scholes, Beckham Giggs, Cole and York. Do you know how many times that team played together?
Wild guess, under 5.
Once.
So I was right.
So with that team only playing together once, that is what we consider the quintessential strongest team that we could have got out in 1999. I think that is way more of a squad game than we all want to consider that it might be. And I think as we move forward with Solskjaer's plan, if he gets to stay here 3, 4, 5 years, I think to do that he is going to have to be successful in that time. But if he is, and if we moves into that, then maybe it isn't the worst thing ever to have multiple options. For starters, how straightforward was it at the start of the season when we was coming up against some of the teams that we expect to beat, and they're smacking us? And half the reason that they're smacking us is because they know what starting 11 we're going to play, because they're the only fit fucking players. Unless he decides to bang Romero left wing, there's not going to be a single shock in the starting 11. So I think having a squad that you can just go, guess what? We don't really know what we're going to put out this weekend. So you don't have a fucking clue what we're going to be putting out this weekend. I think that's a massive, massive advantage to United. It's only can you keep the players happy if they're playing 25 to 30 rather than 50 to 60 games.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's not exactly a bad problem, is it? You think about it, because what we've not factored in is the fact that this season, more than ever, we've kind of seen how detrimental a few injuries here and there can be.
Big time. So
we're kind of factoring in the possibility that no one's injured. That's kind of how we're looking at it. No one's injured. We've got a full squad. Everyone's firing. And then the problem comes, where do you put everyone? But you'd rather have it where you lose a couple of players to injuries and you can still play a relatively strong squad, and there's not a massive drop-off from the best possible 11. So if I'm looking at it, I'd rather... Solskjaer's going to have a problem. He's going to have a problem if we do get everything that we intend to get in the transfer window, which United often don't, especially in recent times. So we're kind of talking a bit with foresight. But I wouldn't mind if you just left the formation as it is, how it was working, because obviously we had a little bit of run of form towards before the COVID break, and then just see how it goes. People have to earn their place at the end of the day. It's got to be performance orientated. So whoever plays well, whoever's firing, whoever's scoring, whoever's assisting, who's influencing the game has got to play. Or I would like to see a front three of Jadon, Martial and Rashford first, and then obviously behind them, Fred, Pogba and Bruno. I know that's saying if you buy Grealish or you buy Havertz, you got to include them in, but that's basically the front six that I'm looking at as I want to see first off. And obviously, whoever can kind of try and break into that, we'll have to see.
I like that. I do like that. That forward six, I don't think many would have a problem with. The only issue I can potentially see is in your bigger games, I don't think Fred, Pogba, Bruno is your go-to. I think in your bigger games, you might go Matic, McTominay. You might go Fred, McTominay. But I think McTominay in them bigger games comes in because he's got a physicality about him. I actually just think he's very good when you're a team expected not to be with the ball. I think his weakness is being on the ball. I think if you're playing Huddersfield away and you're looking for McTominay to be a ball player, to be a playmaker, that's not his game. But if you're playing City away, Anfield away, Tottenham, I think all of those times are times that you probably get the best out of Scott McTominay. I think you've got to choose the right tools for the right job. What I would ask is, though, we've got a game a week tomorrow. One, how fucking good does that feel? And two, knowing what we've just said, knowing like we've probably got a full available squad, remembering Jadon Sancho isn't available for us because he doesn't play for us. What's your starting 11 next Friday? Oh, and how good does that feel saying?
What's my starting 11 as it stands? David De Gea in goal. Right back, Wan-Bissaka. 2 centre-backs, Maguire, Lindelof. Left back, Brandon Williams. This is a difficult one because obviously it's Tottenham. So I would like to see, as I've just said, so I don't want to contradict myself from 2 minutes ago. I obviously want to see. I wanted to see Bruno, Fred, and Pogba as a midfield three, but maybe that might not be the way to go. Maybe we do a diamond. Maybe we do a diamond-ish kind of formation next week, and we have a midfield that includes McTominay, Fred, Pogba, and Bruno as a 10, and then up front, Rashford and Martial.
I've written a few. I've got a 4-4-2 diamond, which isn't far off yours. It's McTominay in the 6, Fred and Pogba level with each other with Bruno in the 10. But I've gone with Ighalo and Rashford, just because I think he offers something a little bit different. But what I think it might be is 4-3-3, Big Dave, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof and Williams, McTominay, Pogba, Bruno. So Fred has been dropped, and I'm not necessarily thinking that that's fair, but I think that Pogba probably will come straight back into the team, although keeping him on the bench is a massive indicator of what Solskjaer's all about if he does do that. And then up front, I've gone with Rashford on the left, Martial down the middle, and Mason Greenwood on the right.
You can't really argue with either formation, can you? Can't really argue with either. Obviously, I've just seen in the chat, Dele Alli suspended next week as well, so which is an added omen. Not that he was playing well recently anyway, but I'm not sure about the Ighalo over Martial. The thing is, Ighalo does offer something a bit more. He's more of a natural number 9 to me than Martial is. But before Martial was in, and he developed a kind of rapport, so to speak, with Bruno as well. So I'd still opt for Martial and Rashford up front. But the issue is with that is, which probably a lot of people can imagine, is that they do tend to prefer the left inside channel. So I don't know whether Rashford and Martial might get in each other's way. But yeah, Ighalo's a shout, but I'm not. I'd still prefer to see that 11. I definitely want to see the diamond: Scott, Fred, Bruno, and Pogba. With Bruno in the 10, and Rashford and Martial. But now that you've said it, I'm kind of getting convinced to the Ighalo starting up top. One guy that holds it and Rashford running off. And Bruno's going to be looking for Rashford and then runs in behind as well. It's an interesting one.
Pogba, coming back, does he go straight into the starting 11 for you? Or should he go, I think you've already mentioned you have put him in, should he go straight into the starting 11?
Pogba? Mm-hmm. Yes. He's given, well, he's not given a big one. Well, his agent has about his aspirations for a bigger and better move. So while we know we've got him in a relatively short time left for sure, then we might as well play him, let him prove himself. If he does want to leave, he'll try and play well. And he's obviously probably, if you're looking at talent-wise, he's our best player. So I don't see how you leave him out, if I'm honest. I'm a big Pogba guy, so I'm always going to opt for Pogba being in. You just need those players that can offer moments that kind of decide these games. So I definitely would play Pogba.
Any thoughts about facing Jose Mourinho in the first game? Any worries about facing Jose Mourinho in the first game? We saw Arsenal get taught a lesson a little bit by Brentford this week. United was meant to have been playing Stoke. I think we've got a friendly rigged up with West Brom as well in the coming days. We hit a very heavy schedule early doors. Do we have to start with 3 points? Or do you think that we could afford to drop? Are you expecting any surprises? We've seen in Bundesliga that form just doesn't exist, does it? There's been, home form doesn't matter, or home advantage doesn't matter. You can't really predict, apart from Bayern Munich's games, how this is going to go. So what's your thoughts on how it's going to unfold once we get into the mixer?
I think you're right. I think it is going to be quite unpredictable. I think there will be a few shocks in some of the fixtures because it's just such an unnatural scenario. But then again, you look at it as everyone's faced the same problem. It's not been a problem. It's not been COVID for some, COVID for others. Everyone's faced the same issue. So it's whichever team copes with it best. But as you said, form is temporary and class is permanent. And we've got players with class, so it should win out. over Tottenham, I think. So I don't want to jinx it, but I don't see that many shocks on the cards for United if we play to our potential. I've jinxed it, haven't I?
Yeah, you might have done. You've seen that the Europa League's coming back in August. We're going to finish the second leg against LASK, and then they're going to make the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, and obviously the final, a one-off game. So we might only be three games away, and surely, I think we could play me and you, especially you more than myself, but I think we could play us two and probably get through that tie against LASK with a 5-goal head start. With there being such a short window to complete the Europa League, if we get the job done, which is well doable, I mean, we're not far off from Wembley anyway, in the FA Cup. If we get the job done in the league, we come inside the top 4, it doesn't matter what fucking City need to do in terms of the Court of Arbitration for Sport appeal. Are you liking the fact that 3 games to wrap the season up in Europa League could be in front of us?
Yeah, I'm liking the fact it's a big opportunity for a little bit of silverware as well. It's never a bad thing winning European competition. With the games coming so thick and fast, and the inclusion of Europa League in that mix, and obviously the FA Cup as well, it might be a good way to get the youngsters a bit of game time as well. So I think it works out quite well. I think we'll be able to cope with it because what the break has done is basically made the team more fit than it has been, because it's not been a very fit squad throughout the whole season. So it's given everyone a bit of a layoff. Everyone's been able to recover, kind of find themselves, stay in shape. Luke Shaw, and I like the Europa League factor. It's like a little bit of an added cherry on top if we get in the top 4. I do like that inclusion in the running.
Is there any worries at all about what might happen should there be people that become infected? Because it seems like it's not really happened at all in Germany. I haven't seen reports of like loads of players getting. I think on the opening weekend there was one team which had 3 or 4. They got isolated. I haven't heard anything of it since. It seems like there's been next to no infections in the Premier League, especially as we've gone on. They've been testing multiple times per week, and it seems like they've had several instances where there's been 0 positive tests come back. Is there any worry that one team it might run through, it might be rife, or what do you think will be the scenario if that happens, and especially if it's United?
I've kind of been thinking about that the other day. I was thinking if one person comes out and says they've got COVID in the Premier League, does that lock it off for the rest of the teams? Does that lock it off completely? And it's quite interesting because of the way like the procedures go. If one person has it, then the whole team has to stop. And then how can one team just not play for 2 weeks and everyone else does? It can actually become a little bit of a mess, which leads me to believe that there's obviously a possibility that maybe some COVID infections might get slipped under the rug. Possibly. Not to go.
I think you might be. It depends on who the club is, I suppose, and what they're trying to achieve at the time. But yeah, I think there's certainly potential for people to cover up positive tests, or maybe not as stringently test everyone. But it does seem that the athletes have generally been all right with it. I haven't heard of anyone being seriously ill if they've got it. Even from those that have been infected, they seem to have been asymptomatic. Pretty much everybody that's tested positive has been surprised about it. There's not been anyone on a ventilator going, "Oh, I've got the Rona, have I? All right, I was wondering what it was." You what?
You don't want me to go into that about the asymptomaticness of people that are not over 50 years old. So,
okay, I think I do.
So it's realistically, obviously, you can never say for sure, but there's an incredibly low chance of a Premier League footballer at the peak of physical fitness and health is going to be quite drastically affected by COVID. Touch wood. So I'm not surprised that they've been asymptomatic, but I feel like we just need to get the Premier League done. We need a bit of positivity in everyone's life, which is football. So I don't want to be completely neglecting of of the pandemic and the coronavirus, etc. But I don't want it to be to overshadow the great return of the Premier League that I've wanted for so long. That we've all wanted for so long, because it's not just about me, obviously.
There is probably some data starting to come out now in terms of the people who've passed away from it. It seems to be very, 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 very rarely in the 18 to 40 sort of category. There's been a couple of babies, unfortunately, and it seems to massively have affected the elder population more than anybody else. And it does seem to be a lot of people in nursing homes and things like that, where you would expect things to get transmitted. With it being possibly, I don't want to, let me just put this out as a caveat. If you're getting your medical advice from a fucking United YouTube channel, you fucked up a long time ago, right? So don't listen to what we're saying on it. We're just talking shit. Speculating is what we're doing. This is like being down the pub, but we're not allowed down the pub, so here we go. With there being seemingly, the evidence would seem to suggest such a low infection rate, or at least a low hard infection rate where it actually affects people in our sort of age range. Would you expect, because obviously you play for Paddock FC currently, you might get binned when we get fucking the trial out, but would you expect grassroots football and gyms and that sort of stuff to be opening, maybe with a bit of an age caveat on them?
That's the issue. I feel like the whole time they've not been too stringent on saying, oh, if you're over this certain age, you can't come in. They've not wanted to have that ageist element to it, which they probably should have had, because they don't want to say it's open for all, but if you're old, stay at home, which is basically what needs to happen. Because when grassroots and gym and etc. comes back, I just believe that society needs to shield the old, the elderly and the vulnerable, and let the rest of the world kind of get on with it, because the coronavirus isn't going to get anywhere, and just running away from the problem is not gonna do us good in the long run, especially if we're off an unsure vaccine. So I just don't want it affecting the Premier League football coming back, or any football coming back.
Stephen Alexander in the comments says, just talk about football, you muppets. This, mate, how can you detach the coronavirus pandemic from anything at the moment? It's relevant to all of our lives. All of our lives. There is not one person who's just doing their shit as normal right now. Not one. Every single person has been somehow affected by this, top and bottom. Simple as. How can you just say, oh yeah, just talk about football? This is football, and we're talking about football, and we're talking about maybe some of the risk isn't as high as we first thought. In the 3 months that we've been locked up, we've found data and we've found evidence, and there's been studies and there's been all sorts of stuff that's come out about this. We are talking about football. Coronavirus affects football. Hence why we're fucking starting the league again in fucking June, my friend. When the fuck has the league ever played in June? It's never played in June. Maniac.
It's true though, because obviously you're saying talk about football, you know, but then we could end up being Thursday evening and the report comes out, Jose Mourinho tests positive for coronavirus, then you ain't getting no football. So how about that?
Facts. Absolute facts. Ryan says, experts predicted 1 million dead. It never happened. They're completely wrong. Survival rate over 99.9%. I don't think that is the survival rate. Yeah. I think the survival rate is low. It's certainly not like SARS or the swine flu, which was really fucking dangerous for everybody. But yeah, it's been fucking grim, and you can't take it lightly, and none of us in here are taking it lightly. We're in the same fucking building and in a different fucking room. That's how little we're fucking taking it for granted. But yeah, I just saw a comment. Are we doing a watch along? Yes. Put it in your diaries right now. We're doing a watch along next Friday night. Oh, I'm going to say it again. Next Friday night, we're doing a watch along for proper football. Not having to like pretend we like German football teams. Not having to pretend we like fucking Spanish football teams. Proper football's back. Weren't you just telling me something? What's going on in La Liga this week? Did you say?
I think I saw a report. Obviously, I kind of brushed it. That Spain or La Liga might allow a limited amount of fans, so it might not even be just completely closed off. They're not doing the old career sex dolls in the crowd. They're actually having people, possibly.
Would you go if you was given the opportunity?
Yeah,
I think I might as well.
I'd go.
Callum's just commented, more people died during COVID than during the Blitz. I saw a stat which I didn't get a chance to fact check, which was more people have died from COVID than died for Britain fighting in the Second World War from D-Day to the end of the war, which is bananas. I can't imagine that's true because we lost a lot on D-Day, but that sounds like an absolute madness, doesn't it? Abby says, watch along, noted. We'll see you there. We don't know who's going to be on it yet or how we're going to run it yet. I guess we're still testing out those sorts of things. But we can have multiple cameras and people, therefore, dotted around all inside the office. We're on Sky, aren't we? I noticed that. We are on Sky, aren't we?
Yeah, I think we are on Sky.
Buzzing. Should we leave it on this? Pogba and Fernandes. One word. What's the word that comes to your mind?
Flair.
I'm going to say moist.
What?
Right.
Quality.
Yeah, quality actually is quality because we don't have a lot of match winners in the squad, and I would say those two. I'm very excited to see what iteration of Marcus Rashford we see. It's a player that's been playing with growing pains and injuries and all sorts of shit throughout his entire career, and he's had a mental break and all the rest of it. Oof. I cannot wait. I can't wait. But right, I'm going to leave it there. Cheers to Ronaldo. Cheers to you guys for coming checking us out. Make sure to subscribe if it's your first time around here. Remember, next week, what time's kick off? Is it 8:15? Oh, we'll be live from about fucking 1 in the afternoon, I reckon. Cheers for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Laters.
See you.